we hear from the founder of Stutterology, the freshest, most exciting podcast that has emerged, that I've seen for quite a while. Always intriguing talk, and we are going to learn all about it.
Hi, I'm Ezra, though you might have met me as Jamie. I go by Ezra now. And it started as a podcast, and I've had some like ups and downs with like getting everything together for that. I do have a few episodes out that I'm really proud of and really excited about, and I have more on deck that I'm also really excited about. And I also started to realize it was something bigger than that. Well, at least that felt weird to say. I don't think I've said that yet, but it felt bigger than that to me. It felt like, okay, this is more of a movement, of a thought process for me to kind of get out there and put things into the world. And so what I chose to talk about today is kind of one of my main goals of the podcast, as well as really my goal in every conversation I have with people about stuttering, particularly somebody who might think that fluency is the solution. So that's what this is going to be about, changing the goal. So why would I say acceptance as opposed to fluency as a better goal? And when I say goal, what I mean is not just your speech therapy goals, although definitely that. I also mean like your personal goals and the goals that even we have for each other as friends to help build each other up. Just having more of this focus on making peace and having some acceptance. And I'm going to kind of also mention what I mean by acceptance. I don't mean like you have to love your stutter. I don't mean like a stuttering pride version, which is awesome for people who are able to do that. But I don't think any of that's necessary. To break down the problem, as we know, you guys know this, you've been listening to it all day, 1% of the population stutters. That's over 70 million people. This one I learned fairly recently. Once a child reaches about the age of 8, if their stuttering persists, odds are that it's there to stay. I didn't know that. It was communicated to me up until I was through high school that my stutter might go away. And that there was a chance it was going to go away. And maybe if that chance is less than 1%, but that's not right what was being communicated to me. So I woke up every day until I was 24 years old thinking one day I was going to wake up maybe and it would just be gone. And then I could start to live the life that I wanted to live. Also, I apologize if you hear chaos. My cats get like that when I'm doing something that involves talking. So another fact we know is that there's no cure for stuttering. So if you are part of that percent of people who have hit the age of 8 onward, or your kid is one, there's not a cure for it. There's no fix it. And so the reality is that we need to do better than giving people false hope. So really quick about me, as I mentioned, I stutter, obviously. I've stuttered since the age of 6, and I joke that means, not joke, but I mean, kind of, that means I have 26 years of experience with this. And I'm really big in that there's a movement in a lot of the, especially disability circles for advocacy, called the lived experience. And that is essential, I believe, to understanding anything that people go through. And it's something that has been left out of the conversation, as a lot of us know, with SLPs or even, parents who are trying to find research on this. I do always specify I'm not a speech language pathologist or speech therapist, just to throw that out there. I feel like that's important to say. I live in Portland, Oregon. And then I also, a couple of years ago, was diagnosed with ADHD. So I know kind of a lot about some of the neurodivergent movement as well, and kind of what that looks like for me. And I feel like it really influences the way I've started to approach my stuttering as well, and my views on that. So stutterology, kind of my mission for it are 3 pillars, if you want to call them that. Educate, advocate, empower. So educate, what is stuttering? That's a really important question to me that I think redefining is always helpful. Advocate and empower, those kind of go hands in hands, but it's making sure that we understand that what someone who stutters, like what that looks like and what that means, and giving people who stutter the platform in these conversations. And it's really important to be also addressing how we treat stuttering this way too, whether again that be as an SLP, as a parent with a kid, as you as a person who stutters. And I did this because it's my core deepest belief that if you have a stutter and you have something to say, you deserve to say it, no matter how long it takes. So what happens when we focus on fluency? I think anyone who stutters and went to lots of speech therapy growing up will probably recognize these types of things. It doesn't necessarily happen 100% of the time, right? But it happens enough to be a problem. And I do think it's actually pretty common. So as we know, 80% of kids in that early stage between 2 and 6, 80% of them will no longer stutter. It was only developmental, so they say. I personally believe that that number is probably off, because I think that some people kind of can go covert. You know, it's kind of an age you start to learn other tools as well. But I don't know that. I don't know. But the reality is, even if that's true, even if 20%, that's still 20% of people, of kids who stutter, who are going to persist and probably stutter in some way, shape, or form for the rest of their life, even if they're hiding it a lot. So if the stuttering continues and fluency is still a goal, that doesn't make sense, right? We know there's no cure. That can't be the goal, because it's not realistic. That's going to lead to negative feelings like shame, frustration, disappointment. You're going to be beating yourself up, and SLP might be wondering why this or why that, why things aren't working the way they want. You're going to be feeling like you disappoint everybody, and then that's going to lead to silence. It's going to lead to avoidance. One of my biggest things is when fluency is the goal. Let me tell you, I can get 100% fluency by never speaking again. Silence is fluent, right? So to me, that's why we can't make it that. My mom has a co-worker. He is a bailiff at a courthouse, and she thinks he has a stutter. She's never heard him do it, but since she raised me and saw that, she kind of has an idea of what it might look like to be avoiding sounds, avoiding situations. I don't know why, but for some reason, one day he confided in her that he was asked to be the bailiff in a courtroom, which every person who works at the courthouse knows that if you can get selected by a judge, you're set, right? You don't have to hop all over the place. You have a home. You have someone that's kind of got your back. And he was actually his favorite judge that asked him. But because the judge's name started with one of his letters that he knew he, quote unquote, couldn't say, I always say he could say it with a stutter, but he felt like he couldn't say it in order to do his job, and that's important to acknowledge. He didn't take it. So he really, by avoiding it, it creates, when you avoid those situations, I think we all have had things that we've regretted not doing or doing because of this trying to hide this stutter, thinking that everyone else is waiting for you to be fluent. So what are the alternatives? I'm gonna try to make this quick. I know I'm like, I get really excited about this stuff, and I have so much that I always want to share. But the alternative, I don't know if this is a thing, but I called it the 3 C's of effective communication. And what those are to me. So the first C is comfortable. Is the person who's talking comfortable communicating? There will be different sets of goals for that, and it's going to look different for every person, right? For some people, this does mean hiding the stutter in certain situations if they're not comfortable. It could also mean stuttering openly and being comfortable. It also might not be comfortable to stutter at first, right? But that's why it's a goal, because you can work towards that. You can get more used to that. And are they comfortable? Where are they comfortable? Home, with their family? Are they comfortable at school, at work, in the SLP room, giving presentations? There's so many different opportunities, and comfort's going to look different everywhere. But being able to be comfortable speaking is going to make a huge difference in everything. And I think that's a great first goal and aim for everything. And I think the past we associate, I'll be comfortable if I can be fluent. But I think a lot of people who stutter know that that's not at all true, that we are so afraid. We might sound fluent to somebody else, but we're not comfortable. And I think being comfortable is a more important and leads to better conversations and better communications skills. I wanted to also kind of mention, when I talk about effective communication, I talk about being comfortable, having confidence, being able to connect to people is what communication really is about. I used to think that you could never be a very effective communicator until you had this gold standard of perfectionism, which obviously wouldn't include a stutter. When I was about 24, 25, and I started finally talking to people about my stuttering, I had a friend that I'd had for about 10 years. We were really close. He had never, ever said a single negative thing to me about my stuttering. He teased me about all kinds of stuff, but he was very always kind about it. And one day, something about conversations came up, and he told me, "You're a really good communicator." And I assumed that he was mocking me. I was like, man, like, that's not cool to say that. Like, that's really messed up, because I really wish I was. And he was confused because he obviously did not have this world belief that effective communication meant that you had to be fluent. He told me, no. Like, you are. Communication is about making sure that the other person understands what it is you're trying to say in a clear and effective way. You do that a lot better than a lot of other people who don't stutter. That's not the point of communication. It's not about getting every single word perfectly said in this gold standard. It's about making sure another person understands you. And that for me was like life-changing, because I would sooner have believed that my friend of 10 years was mocking my biggest insecurity, but before I had realized that what he meant was true. So with that, right, that ties into me to confidence. There's comfortability, there's confidence. Being a confident speaker, again, is going to look different. Maybe you're not someone who likes getting up in front of a group doing a presentation, and that's fine. Are you confident when you're speaking to your friends? If you wanted to meet new people, would you be like, how confident would you be about just being able to talk to them? You might have other insecurities, you might have other stuff going on, but to go up and talk to somebody, do you believe that you deserve to take up any space? Or do you think that you need to make yourself as small as you can, talk as fast as you can, get this over with, because you're wasting everybody's time? Because if that's your belief, first of all, you're not going to have a good time communicating. You're also not going to be as effective as you could be if you believed that you are worth someone else taking the time to hear. And I think you are. And then the last C would be connectedness. So kind of what my friend had said, are you connecting with the other person? I think that is such a more important goal when it comes to how we're communicating. And I don't see this in any of the traditional kind of more stereotyped speech language speech therapy, right? You're sitting, reading the same sentence over and over, about something you don't know anything about or care about, or like Jane is chasing the dog. And I'm not saying there's no value in any of that. That might be a part of being more comfortable or being more confident, but there is absolutely zero connectedness. You're not connecting with anyone when you're doing that. There are lots of speech therapists who do get this, and so I'm not hating on everyone, but I'm saying that I do think it's missing from a fluency model perspective. So next, what are some of the ways to do it? There's a lot of really good resources out there. As we know, you guys have probably heard some as the last day has been on with StutterFest as well. Really quick to kind of go over, there's voluntary stutter, there's advertising. So there's going to be when you get to feel like you have control over your stutter. This is really good for the confidence and the comfortability piece. You're disclosing, you're advertising, you're telling people is going to help again with those things. You're going to be more comfortable if you're not having to worry what they might be thinking. Arts, which is avoidance reduction therapy for stuttering. So this is focused on reducing the amount of avoidance that you've been doing in your life, which will ideally reduce the amount of regret and help you live more fully. There's also a good way to desensitize yourself to stuttering is community, going to things like this, going to other types of events, especially around people who stutter, but even at home with friends, having some of these open conversations will desensitize the topic of stuttering and helps you reframe how you see it yourself. I don't have necessarily time to go over all of the final thoughts I have, but I've kind of said all of them. But my main thing is that you can communicate effectively with a stutter. You deserve to take up space. Fluency does not need to be the default goal, especially in effective communication. Comfortable communication is a more important thing to focus on. Fluency goals can lead to silence, shame, and regret. This one's big. More stuttering isn't necessarily a bad thing. So that gets removed from the framework of how somebody's doing and what goals they're reaching, because it's about how you're feeling and what you're doing, how you feel about the things that you do. And everyone's version of this is going to look differently. This isn't going to be the same for everybody at all. So that's my spiel. I'm probably preaching the choir with this, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this. I'm hoping to finally kind of edit some of those episodes of the podcast, put that out there. My main aim for the first few episodes was that parents, I think that parents have such an essential role in shaping how their kids going to feel about their stutter, whether they mean to or not. And then I also have an Instagram and a Twitter account. The Stutterology handle on Twitter was taken, unfortunately, by somebody who has not used their account in years. So it's Stutterology 101. And thank you guys.